Hey guys, and welcome back to the show. I am your host, Megan Hardy, and I'm the founder of Fitness Uncharted. And today I am joined by a very special guest, one of our very own at the Fit U, Jordan Hilliard. Jordan is one of our coaches at the Fit U, and she is such a wonderful coach, such a godsend, such a great human. And today I'm going to kind of let Jordan run the show with talking about this topic because this is definitely her niche, not mine, as far as best practices for the runner slash lifter, and what has worked for well for her and her experience, and also what has worked well for some of her clients. And whether you're someone who you are, wanting to, maybe you're the runner and you're wanting to get into lifting, or maybe you're the lifter and you're wanting to get into running, Jordan's just going to give us kind of some best practices on how to do both. So, Jordan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. Would you first just share with everyone? I feel like it was in the last maybe like year or two that you really started upping your running game. Maybe it's longer than that, and I'm
Yeah.
completely.
No. It was last year. I think it was June-ish, and it's kind of a funny story. I feel weird telling people this, but I just kind of ran around the neighborhood. So I have an almost 2-year-old. She'll be 2 on Friday, and I
Oh.
decided after like 6 months that I just wanted to do running a little bit, just as a different way to like get out. It was at the beginning of the summer. The weather was still nice and not too hot. So I was just getting out and running like a loop around my neighborhood, which was about a mile and a half. And I was doing it every few days during work, like during my lunch hour. And some guy stopped me one day and asked if I was training for anything. And I was like, no, I'm just running. And he was like, oh, I figured you were training for a half marathon. I was like, no, I could never. And then the next day, I signed up for a half marathon. Because I realized that I was in my own head about I could never. And I was like, if I sign up and tell people that I'm doing it, I have to do it, you know? So
Yeah.
that is quite literally how I got into running. And I honestly thought I was just going to do the training plan and kind of hate it. But I ended up using a running app that walked you through different kinds of runs. So, like easy runs, tempo, and interval kind of runs. And so I enjoyed it because it was structured and challenged myself in a different way than strength training, and just ended up falling in love with it. And it's like the one time that my mind can turn off, because as much
Mm-hmm.
as I love strength training, my mind doesn't really turn off during that time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for the longest time, my mind would turn off during running because I was literally just focused on not dying when I was running. Like I was so
That's me.
focused on my breath that I couldn't think about anything else. But now I've gotten to a point where it's just like relaxing, I guess. And so I'm able to actually turn my mind off more when I run than with anything else. So I've kind of fallen in love with it for the mental health benefits more than anything now.
Oh, I love that. And I feel like that's a big thing too. Like it's funny, I'm like, my goal in life is always just to be able to run a mile. As far
Yeah.
as like stamina and cardiovascular health, because I don't think it's funny, with the whole like strength training movement, I feel like it was like meh, poo poo on cardio.
Right.
But I'm like, also, y'all, it's not cool to not be able to run a mile.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like
Well, and
health wise.
I was the coach for the longest time that like also was kind of like, oh, don't do cardio. Not that cardio is bad, but I was definitely one of those that was like, no, you don't need to do cardio. And I mean, you do, but not for fat loss. You need to do it
Yes.
for your overall health, like your cardiovascular health. So I've
Cardiovascular health.
definitely, I've definitely changed my stance as I've gotten more into running and realized like how important it is, which I should have realized before I actually got into running. But now this has given me just like a different view on it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and also too what you said, the mental health aspect or component. I'm still in the phase of life that I'm like focused on not dying if I run.
Right.
Walking is my mental health space.
Yeah.
That's my pace. But I think that's another component that a lot of people listening and a lot of our clients who run, just a lot of women in general, that's a huge reason why they do it too, is like
Yeah.
the mental health component. They're like, it's just good. It's good for the headspace.
Yeah, it really is. And then I mean, obviously from like a scientific perspective, like you're also getting those endorphins released that you might not get released as much during strength training. Like obviously strength training has its other benefits, but like releasing the endorphins doesn't happen as much during strength training unless you're doing like the higher reps and your heart rate's really getting up, or like super heavy lifting, whatever. But for what I'm doing strength training wise, I wasn't getting that endorphin release that I get
Mm,
with running. So
Mm.
it's been amazing. Now, I mean, it's not solving all my problems with like anxiety and stuff like that, but in the moment it does. And that's what I care about.
Yes. What is the L was exercise gives me endorphins. Endorphins makes me
Yeah.
happy. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then so did you fall in love after the high of the half marathon or during the training
Honestly,
process?
before, during the training
Okay.
process. And then I did the half marathon and it was my first one. And so I got to like mile 10, I think, out of 13 and was like, why am I doing this? What? Why am I here? So I did some more like walk run intervals from miles 10 to 13. And after the half marathon, I was like, okay, that was great. It was a one-time thing. I'm not doing it again. And then literally the next week, I signed up for my next half marathon. And once again, at my second half marathon, I got to like I got to like mile 12 on this one. And then again was like, why do I willingly do this? What am I doing? And was like, okay, I'm done. And then the next day signed up for another half marathon. So right now I have one in November, one in December, and one in January.
November, December, January,
Hmm.
every month. Whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
Fourth
It wasn't
quarter.
planned. It wasn't planned that way necessarily, but I signed up for the December one and then my training plan was going to have me basically run a half marathon to train in November and I was like, well, I'm going to sign up for a race that's that weekend. I'm at least going to get a medal out of this.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
decided to sign up for the one in November and then the friend that I'm running with in November is running in January. And she was like, well, since you convinced me to run in November, you should run in January. So, after that, I will probably take a little bit of a break because my body's going to need it.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay. Well, that's a part of the topics for today that I want to talk about. Oh, I think we're like glitching. Here we go. But I have like a whole list of questions for you. So I'm just going to spew them at you in respect and honor of time. The first thing is kind of that big picture. Like, how do you balance your weekly schedule between strength training sessions and your running workouts? Because you are doing both right now, right?
Yeah, and that's been something that I've kind of let be dynamic as my weeks go on, honestly. So I sit down on Sundays and I will plan out literally in my calendar on my phone. I'll look at what I've got going on for the week because I also work full time. So I've got to figure out when I can fit my runs and my lifts in, but I also still make it a top priority or like a non-negotiable to have one full rest day. If I can get
Mm,
two, that'd be great,
okay.
but one for sure. So right now I'm lifting 4 days a week and running three. And so one of those days typically overlaps because obviously 4 plus 3 is 7. So that doesn't allow for the rest day. So I usually have one day that I'll do my easy run and like full day because that tends to be my easiest strength training day. So I'll
Okay.
typically do those on the same day. And then I'll have 2 days that are just running and then 3 days that are just lifting.
Okay. So
So
you have the one overlap day in order
yeah,
to
one overlap, and I try to make it so that it's my easiest lift and my easiest run so that
okay.
I'm not overdoing it. But there are weeks like I have to change it constantly. Like this week I had a work trip, so I ended up having to double down on 2 days. Monday and Tuesday I lifted and I ran. So it just kind of depends on the week, but I sit down at the beginning of the week and I'm like, all right, what do I have going on? And I schedule it in, which is what I always tell clients in general, whether you're just lifting, just running, or a mix of both. Like treat it like an appointment, schedule them in on your calendar. Otherwise, you're not gonna like the week's gonna get it away from you. My weeks get away from me all the time. And if I didn't schedule it in, none of it would happen, honestly.
Yeah, seriously. And so on those weeks, especially if you have where like life happens or, you know, Avery's doing something crazy that you didn't expect
Always.
or out of school or sick or whatever, or with daycare, do you prioritize one running or lifting, like depending on the season that you're in or your race schedule? Like, how do you kind of
Yeah,
prioritize that?
definitely. So I started training for this half marathon, the one that I have in November. I started training again at the beginning of this month, so at the beginning of September. And before that, if things went a little bit crazy, my runs were going to be pushed off. Like I didn't really care. I wanted to get my runs in for the sake of my mental health, but I wasn't training for anything. So my lifting was my priority. And if something had to give, it was going to be my runs.
Mm.
Or even like I've got a jogging stroller. So if Avery was home, then I would, instead of doing my 4 mile run that I scheduled, I would just do 1 mile run with a stroller because that really should equate to 4 miles, doing 1 mile with a stroller. But
I should tell you, I actually with Ryder the other day, it was probably for like, I don't know, I'm terrible at distance, like 10 yards or something. It was not far. But I was like, let me just embrace Jordan right now and let me run with my stroller. And I was like, yeah, that's hard.
yeah, never again. Yeah, and it gets harder the heavier they weigh, obviously. So
Yeah.
it's definitely gotten tough. I've got a race, just a 10K. I never thought I would say just a 10K, but
Yeah.
just a 10K. So just 6 miles, but it's a bridge run that I've got at the beginning of October, and I have to do it with Avery, like in the stroller. And I'm
Uh,
already thinking about going up the bridge and going down, because going down it's going to be pulling and I'm going to be making sure I
yeah.
don't let go of her.
I know. I actually would be more concerned about going down the bridge.
Yeah. Um,
Uh,
but yeah,
that's
so during the seasons where I'm not training for a half marathon, the runs are going to be what gives if I have to give something or adjust something and I prioritize lifting. Now, if I have to give something like this week, for instance, there's not as many days in the week as I need this week. So I'm not going to hit my second leg day. Um,
gotcha.
so I'm going to give up my fourth lift because it came down to either doing that or my long run. And I need to get my
Okay.
long run in for half marathon training.
Okay, and then what about, so what does a typical training week look like? Like, is there much difference for when you are preparing for a race versus when you're not, as far as the number of days that you're running or lifting?
Yeah, so whenever I wasn't training for a race, I did 2 running days and I
Okay.
would allow a third day if I wanted to. So like I was still doing like a training plan that was just kind of a maintenance so I didn't lose. Unfortunately, just like lifting, like if you stop running, you kind of lose the cardio. And I mean it your
Yeah.
body gets back to it quickly, but you lose it pretty quickly. So I was just doing a maintenance plan to keep up with my endurance and my stamina. And I was only doing 2 days a week. And then if I felt like doing a third day and I had time to do a third day, then I would add it in. But I was doing 4 days, sometimes 5 days of lifting whenever I was
Okay.
doing that, and still doubling up on one running and lifting day. But I would either do 5 days of lifting and one rest day, or I would do 4 days of lifting and two rest days whenever I
Okay.
wasn't training for something.
And then do you, for clients, like, would you recommend that same thing? Because obviously everyone's different. So it's like, or do you have some clients who are doing less strength days or less run days or like different for everyone? Or is there
So
kind of like a bare minimum you're
yeah, so for most
recommending?
of my clients that have wanted to incorporate running, they haven't been training for something. It's just been like I want to incorporate running, kind of like you said, like I want to be able to run a mile or I want to have the base like cardio. And so for them, because of the fact that a lot of those clients are looking for weight loss and I don't want to overwhelm their body,
Mm,
I will typically make sure that they still have two full rest days in there. So whatever that looks like, if we do 2 running days and 3 lifting days so that they have two full rest days, or if they're capable of doubling up, and by capable, I just mean their schedule.
yeah.
If their schedule is capable of doubling up, then we might do 4 lifting days and 2 run days, doubling up on one so they still get two full rest days. But especially anyone who's trying to lose weight, like I know it sounds like more is better and like, oh, I'm going to do all this cardio and I'll just do one rest day. But in reality, that ends up stressing your body out more and
Yeah.
not giving your body the chance to recover and build that muscle and get what it needs. So it stays in that constant stress state. So I don't think I've ever had a client that I've told, hey, we're just going to do one rest day. Um,
Yeah.
all of them, I'm like, okay, we're going to do 2 rest days and then we'll figure out how to balance that. And I had one client who was signing up for a race, and I think her race was a 7 or 8 mile race. Um, and so for her, I prioritized running during that time. So we went down to 3 strength training days per week, and we did
Nice.
3 full body days. So she was still getting all of her muscle groups 3 times a week, but then she was getting 3 running days in to really build up her endurance for that race.
Nice. I love too that you mentioned, thank you for mentioning the fat loss piece too, because a lot of people who are listening are like, are here for building muscle, losing body fat, body recomposition. And that, this conversation even is like with a more specific goal in mind of like improving your running or running and lifting and like maybe stamina and cardiovascular health and those things. So,
Yeah. And I
so
will say, and you haven't asked, but it might be something that you were going to ask. If you are wanting to lose weight, training for a half marathon is certainly not the way to do it, because I actually gain weight whenever I'm training for a half marathon, because you have to, especially if you're strength training too, but even still, you have to eat to
hmm
support that training. Like your body is going to, which is what happened during my first half marathon. I didn't fuel enough in general, but then especially leading up to the race. And
mm,
so my body bonked at mile 10. It was just like, all right, we've hit a wall. Like we're done. And that's when I had to start
oof,
incorporating the wall or the walking and running intervals. But I, the last two marathon or half marathon training cycles, I've actually put on a little bit of weight because I'm having to eat to support the amount of training that I'm doing. So
makes sense.
if you're listening to this, don't think like, oh, I'm going to train for a half marathon because it'll be a great way to lose weight. It'll actually probably do the opposite, or you'll end up just maintaining your weight. Like it's added cardio, but you should be adding the food in there too.
Gosh, that is such a good point. I feel like because I think it's an awesome goal. Like I love when people have other goals other than just a body recomp or like weight loss goal or something like something to
Yeah,
aim for. But that's not the intent of like whether it's a marathon or a bodybuilding competition. Like so many people are who want to do a bodybuilding competition because they want to get their body in a certain shape and they're goal oriented. So they're like, okay, well if I shoot for this thing, I will get
right.
there. But in order to get like that stage ready and lean, from the majority of people, it also doesn't usually end up being in a super healthy way, especially if they're trying to do it really quick. And then also the aftermath, which we won't get into now,
Yeah,
but you have to have an exit strategy after your show. So I think those
yeah,
are awesome goals to have. Like, I love when we have clients who are like, yeah, I'd love to do a bodybuilding show. Awesome. But don't do it because that's how you're trying to get your body, you know,
right.
to look a certain way.
Yeah, and like for me, I signed up for these extra half marathons, or not extra, but these other half marathons because I am so goal oriented, but in like a competition kind of way, not a physique goal kind of way. And so
Yeah.
for me, I was like 2:03, like 2 hours and 3 minutes for my last half marathon. And I was like, ooh, I'm so close to a 2 hour one. So for me, it's like constantly pushing for that next thing, but in a performance kind of
Yes.
goal, which
Yes.
I feel like we have clients that come to us wanting to do either training for a race or bodybuilding, and they are very performance based. And that's
Yeah.
great. Like doing that is amazing. Just doing it for the physique is not going to end well.
Yes, yes, so good. And also, I want to jump into our nutrition conversation for these things, but first, have a couple other scheduling questions for you with your
Yeah.
routine. And also wanted to mention too, you were like how quickly, to keep up with some running, because how quickly you can lose it and lose that stamina.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to mention our conversation, was it yesterday or today? But whereas like we had a team meeting, we have a weekly team meeting with our coaches on Mondays. And Jordan was like, hey, I really need to get this run in. So on the call, I'm going to be on my run, but I can unmute myself whenever to talk. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm on baby duty, so I'll be probably intermittent myself, whatever. And she's running and probably did 50% of the talking on that call.
I
And
actually surprised myself with it too, like how much I talked on that call.
well, I was like, how is she? And I was on a walk after the call and we were voice messaging back and forth. And just on my walk, I voice messaged her and I was like, you are less out of breath on your run than I am voice messaging you on my walk right now.
Yeah.
And you said you're like, that's a new thing for you, right?
Yeah, it is. And it's something, so my running plan that I do, it tells me, especially for my easy runs, it's like, do this at a conversational pace. And for the longest time, I was like, that's walking. What do you mean? Like there is no conversational pace while running. And I've gotten to the point now where I can. Now I'm typically doing it in like short sentences. So like even on our call on Monday, I would like do a few sentences and then I'd pause for a minute and then do a few more sentences. But I've gotten to the point where I can, and I don't know that it's necessarily anything other than just consistency with training. Just kind of like we talk about
Yeah.
with anything, like consistency matters and the little steps. It wasn't like one shining moment that I was like, oh, this is what caused me to be able to run and talk at the same time. It's just I've been consistent with showing up and done the easy runs easy and my hard runs hard. And now I'm at the point where
Yeah.
I can incorporate talking while I run in small small fragments.
All fragments. If anyone wants to be able to have the skill of talking and running at the same time, come talk to Jordan. No, it's so good. But it is, it's just like a muscle that, you can do more reps as you are getting stronger and they're
Yeah,
easier. So like you've, conditioned yourself that way.
right.
Okay. So a couple other questions about your scheduling or structure. So when you are, do you adjust your lifting intensity or volume when your mileage increases? So like not just the number of days that you're working out, but like your intensity and your lifts. Are you adjusting those when you have more mileage you need to hit?
Yeah, well, so feel like that answer has kind of changed too, because during my first and second half marathon training blocks, I had a home gym at the time. And it's so weird. Like, I clearly have been someone I've learned as I've gotten back into the gym that I thrive in the gym environment and like can lift heavier in the gym environment, which I mean
Oh,
makes sense
yes.
because of the environment. And then, as you know, like having a kid, a baby, a newborn, a toddler, whatever at home makes it a little bit more difficult to go as heavy as you want to and give everything. But anyway, so I had a home gym at the time, but I did notice that I was weaker during my half marathon training blocks, which makes sense because my body's burning more calories. Again, the first half marathon training block, I probably wasn't fueling enough.
Mm.
Um, so I adjusted my intensity of my lifts, not on purpose, but I was naturally, I got weaker. And so I was still going in with the mindset, which is what I always tell clients. Like, I want my last two reps to be hard, still with good form, but I want my last two reps to be challenging of every single set. And I went in with that mindset because I'm typically of the mindset, I want to increase my weights or my reps every single week. Like, that's what I try to do for progressive overload. And it just wasn't happening during half marathon
Mm.
training. So to prevent myself from getting super frustrated, I changed my mindset around it. And I was like, it just needs to be challenging for me that day, whatever that looks like. Now, I am in week 4 of this half marathon training block, and I've been able to still hit PRs every single week, like actually
Nice.
PRs that I haven't touched this weight since 3 years ago. So
Nice.
I'm able to lift heavier and get stronger this half marathon training block. And I haven't purposely decreased my intensity. Um, I will say the hardest thing with balancing strength training and running in terms of intensity is, when do I do leg day? Especially, I have two of them a week. So, like, when do I do leg day that doesn't interfere with my running? And when do I run that doesn't interfere with my leg day?
Yeah.
And then the intensity of those. Like, upper body, I'm not really worried about it. I can lift as heavy as I want. I can kill my upper body, and that's fine. Like, I might feel a little tightness when I'm running and just like in my lats and all of that. But I don't really, that's not a problem. Leg day is where I kind of get a little bit concerned. And as I get closer to my half marathon, I probably will lower the intensity a little bit, like lower
Mhm.
the weights and just be a little bit more like cognizant of when I do leg day. But so far, I've been able to still increase my weights and be fine. So
Nice.
the
Nice.
answer kind of fluctuates,
Yeah.
but the first two half marathon training blocks, I did lower my weights and my intensity, not really on purpose. Like, my body forced me to. And
Mm.
then now I've been able to increase my weight. So I'm kind of just riding that wave while it works. And then if it gets to a point where I can't increase weights anymore, then that's fine. Then I'll just make sure I'm still challenging myself just with slightly lighter weights. And when I say
Nice.
slightly lighter, it'd be like 80% of what I'm doing now. I'm not going to be going down to like 50 to 60% whenever I'm cutting weights.
Nice. And do you feel like a part of even with this go around, do you feel like part of it's because of the fueling? Like do you think
Yeah, I feel so much better in general, like throughout the day, but then I'm also very intentional with fueling right before my lifts and right before my runs. So I'm giving myself that quick energy boost too. If
nice.
and you've seen this, Megan, but and everyone laughs at me because I'm like Buddy the Elf. So my favorite fueling for my runs is maple syrup. I know it sounds I know it sounds crazy, but they make little packs for runners now that are like just long skinny packs of maple syrup. It's like a single serving and it's like pure maple syrup. But honestly, so many of the nutrition, like the gels and stuff, are so processed.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
pure maple syrup. It's honestly healthier than most of the other stuff,
Pure
and it
maple
just gets
syrup.
gets to my bloodstream. And I've had people try it and they're like, this is so sweet. And I'm like, yeah, it's maple syrup. What do you expect? Like, it's literally straight maple syrup. But that's one of my favorite ways to fuel for my runs. And I've made sure to, like, before every single run, I'm having maple syrup or whatever it may be. And then I've obviously had some kind of complex carbohydrate and good protein and everything like well before that. But getting that quick energy has made a huge difference too.
So good. So good. Okay. Okay. Now I know maple syrup. And this is coming from our sweet
Oh,
candy
for sure. For
fiend
sure.
over here.
Every time Megan gets me gifts, it's always going to be something having to do with candy, and it is my favorite.
What did I send you it's the clusters?
It's the Nerds gummy clusters, and it's like
Yeah.
the Halloween packs or whatever. So it's like the little ones. And I've seen people take those on their runs actually. So I might try that out. Maybe that'll be for my half marathon, and I'll think of you whenever I'm doing
It
it.
was like a 200 count or something. It
It's
was
so
like
many. It's so many.
but now I know maple syrup. I'm just gonna send you bottles of maple syrup. Well, okay, so you already kind of answered this partially, but do you change your approach or how do you approach fueling before, whether it's a long run versus a lifting session? Could you talk everyone through that? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I'm definitely more intentional with my long runs to make sure that I'm fueling right before. Like, to be honest, I can go into a lift, like, I lift in the mornings. So I always have my little protein mini muffins first thing when I'm taking my daughter to school. So, like, an hour before my lift, I believe, 30 minutes to an hour. And I always have those every single morning, but I'm not trying to have something like right before. I'm good lifting without it. However, for my long runs, I still have something complex carb an hour or so before my run, but I always have something 15 minutes before my run for that quick energy, because it's going to get depleted so much quicker than whenever I'm lifting. Like
Yep.
lifting, I'm obviously recruiting my muscles and everything, but with running and getting into that aerobic state, I'm definitely going to need the fuel. So, depending on the length of the run, too, I will have fuel during the run, which is not something I do during my lifts. Like, I know that there are people that do. And if you have a really long lift, I think that it's beneficial to have some kind of intro workout. But my lifts are 45 minutes, so I don't need it.
Yeah.
But my long runs, if it's anything over 6 miles, I take some kind of maple syrup or gel or something with me to have some quick energy during my run, too.
What is your meal before your long runs? The meal 15 minutes before. What does that look like for the snack?
The 15 minutes before is usually just like a banana. Um, Still, I want it to be something that's like quick energy. Sometimes I'll even do a Rice Krispie treat or something like that, a little bit more processed. But sometimes I'll do a Rice Krispie treat, and that's another quick sugar that I know is going to digest really quickly because I want that. I want that quick energy in my bloodstream. An hour and a half before, it's going to be more like rice cakes and peanut butter, or um, I actually prefer almond butter to peanut butter. So I'll typically do like
Me too.
rice cakes with almond butter and banana on top or something like that to give me
Okay.
kind of all of those, the healthy fats and the protein and the carbs,
Do
a
you
well-rounded thing.
how do you make sure, because I know you're not tracking your food
Mm-mm.
right now, right? How are you making sure or ensuring that you're getting enough protein and carbs for both endurance and strength? I mean, it's like obviously you're doing something right because you're hitting new PRs and getting the mileage in that you need. How are you making sure that you're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I am a very much like when I find something that works, I kind of just repeat it. Like I don't
yep,
need to reinvent the wheel, nor do I want to. So I typically, especially during the week, kind of eat the same things every day. And I've kind of found what works and meal timing. So I'm very much like a routine girl. If it works, it works. And so, like I said, I start my morning with my mini muffins, and then usually by the time I get home from the gym, like 8, so around 8:30, I make sure to have something too. And I'm always making sure that every snack has some kind of protein in it because I'm a very snacky kind of person versus meals. So I want to make sure every snack has protein in it. And then my carbs tend to be more around like my runs or my lifts or whatever.
mm,
Um, so I'm definitely getting plenty of carbs in because I'm over emphasizing it around my workouts. And then it's just, I mean, I love carbs, so they're naturally coming in throughout the day. Like any meal is probably going to have bread in it. Um,
yeah.
And like I'll typically do one protein shake a day just to help make sure that I am getting that protein number in. But it's really just like a creature of habit kind of thing for me that
Mm.
I've realized like I don't track, so I couldn't tell you exactly how much protein or how many carbs I'm getting in right now. But like you said, like I'm hitting the PRs, I'm getting my runs in, and I'm not feeling fatigued from my runs. So I figured out like, hey, eating this many times a day or this much a day, I guess I should say, kind of
Mhm.
estimating makes my body feel good. And that's what I'm going off of is really that like, how is my body feeling? And if it's feeling good, then we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Yep. I love it. And that's where I'm like, because, we use tracking as a tool with our clients. And it's like, because if something's not working, tracking is a great tool to help give us eyeballs, especially
Yeah.
for your coach to know what are you doing so we know how to make changes. But also, if you found like the goal is to not have to track your food forever or the rest of your life. So if you found that sweet spot, which you have, like it might be a different story if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just like fatigued and drained. And I don't know why. That might be a great time to track your food, see what you're actually getting,
Right.
but you're hitting all your goals right now and you're in a
Yeah.
really great
And
place.
I tracked, it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think it was actually right when I
Did you?
started my half marathon training again. I tracked for like 2 days just to see kind of where I was
Oh,
at, especially
nice.
with protein. So I'll do that occasionally. And I tell clients that too. Like the ultimate goal for clients, and it's not necessarily going to happen when they're working with us, like in that window, just depending on how long they work with us. But the ultimate goal is for you not to track forever. But like I tracked for 6 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, something like that. And so like I tracked for a very long time. So I know in my head kind of an estimate of like what the composition, the macro composition is of food. So like I've
Hmm.
done all the behind the scenes work plenty of times or plenty of years that now I don't really have to track. But even for me, like it's still something that I use as a tool. And when I'm doing something like starting half marathon training again, I'll just track for a couple of days, see like, okay, what I'm eating right now, where does that hit me? Cool, it works, then I'll just keep eating that same way. And that's not to say that I'm not going to change things up because I get bored too with my food. But for the most part, especially from breakfast through like my afternoon snack, keep it pretty much the same throughout the week because it works. And then dinner, I let be more flexible and I just make sure that it's like protein focused. And then I know that I'll hit around the kind of numbers that I would like to be hitting.
Yeah, that's so helpful. And that's such a good takeaway from this episode too, is like if something's working, like not or having less variability in those meals and then like being a little more flexible with dinner is such an easy way to hit your macro goals and know you're getting what you need
Yeah.
without tracking. And I pretty much do the same thing. Really have mostly the same thing from breakfast until that afternoon snack and then switch it up a little bit with dinner.
Yeah, and I think that provides like the perfect amount of variety, honestly, because
Yeah.
I'm someone like I, truth be told, have never been a meal prepper. I hate meal prepping, not the work. Like I'm fine with the work. I hate eating the same thing every day when it comes to like chicken and rice. And like I know you can change it up and do 100 different things, but I don't like it. I don't do it. And so I always tell clients that too. What I do instead is I will ingredient prep usually. So I have a protein that I've prepped in my fridge, and then I can do microwave veggies or 100 different options to go with it.
Yeah.
But I'm so simple when it comes to like breakfast through my afternoon snack. And that's coming from someone who does need variety. But I've found that happy balance of like, I enjoy eating these things from breakfast through snack. So I'm going to eat them while I enjoy them. That's not to say I won't get sick of them and then need to change it
Yep.
up. But for now, we'll use it. And then I'll
Yep.
change up dinner. And then I feel like I have enough variety, but I'm still supporting my goals.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, you're again the perfect person to talk to for the person who's like, I need more simplicity, but also I need variety in my meals.
Yeah.
That like
Well, and
you.
I'll even go get like a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store and shred it because having a toddler at home, like not only do I not like meal prepping from the eating the same thing, but like it's hard with having a toddler at home and especially when she's awake. So a lot of times I'll just do like a rotisserie chicken and it's so easy. And so I tell clients that all the time too, is like it's a really easy way that isn't going to break the bank and you can make sure that you've got shredded chicken whether you use it every night or if it's like a backup option of like, oh, I don't have anything for dinner tonight, and you just throw that on with some veggies or rice or whatever, you can do whatever with it.
Yeah, so good. So good. We're all about the simplicity here.
I am for
Uh,
sure.
okay, another question for you, nutrition wise. What changes in your nutrition strategy, or what changes are you making leading up to race day? How is that changing for you?
Yeah, so I don't really change too much up until the week before.
Okay.
So the first half marathon, I only started like carb loading or like increasing my carbs a ton and increasing my food in general, like 2 days before my half marathon, and that wasn't enough. I think I did much better the last half marathon, and I honestly think the only reason I hit that wall was because it was nice weather until it wasn't, and then it got like super hot, and so at mile like 11 the heat hit and the sun hit. So I think that was it.
Oof.
But when it comes to nutrition, I don't really change anything. Like I kind of do what I just talked about until race week. And then I start increasing my food. And typically I will increase my food by choosing more carb sources. So again, I'm not tracking necessarily, but I have an idea of about how much I'm eating every day just based on like how full I get when I eat all of that stuff. And so race week starting, like if race day is on a Saturday, I'll start that on Sunday of the previous week and just start eating more carbs. So if I'm usually doing one apple, I'll do two kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So like, yeah, whatever that looks like, if it's rice or potatoes, it's just like an extra little serving of whatever that carb is, right?
Yeah, so not really reinventing the wheel. I will incorporate a few more treats, like
Mm.
sweet treats and stuff like that, just because I mean, why not, you know?
Why not?
Like if I'm gonna have to carb load, I might as well make it even more fun. But in reality, most of the sweet treats are gonna be like those quicker, more simple carbs, like simple sugar that's gonna process in your body quicker. So I don't want to incorporate too many of those because my goal is to have good carbs that are gonna stay in my system for longer. So I'm
Mm,
trying to
hmm.
incorporate the pasta and the potatoes and things like that.
Gotcha.
I will
Gotcha.
eat an extra bowl of pasta and some good bread. That is
Mm.
perfect
Wow.
for race week.
Perfect for race week. Also, along the nutrition conversation, what about hydration? How are you managing that differently for runs versus weight training?
Yeah, so I've never really been one to drink water during my weight training for the most part. I just haven't really had to, honestly. And so now that I've picked up more running again, I have started incorporating water during weight training, not necessarily to support my weight training, but to make sure that I'm starting because I work out in the morning. So I want to start my day off with more water, or with, I have a 30-ounce water bottle, I believe. So I'm starting my day with 30 ounces of water before I leave the gym. Um, and so I've increased my water during half marathon training versus when I'm not training for a half marathon because I want to make sure I stay hydrated. But then I also make sure, depending on my run days and run times, that I'm drinking more water surrounding that. Um, and then after as well. So hydration strategy like changes a good bit in terms of the amount of water I'm drinking, but also when I
Hmm.
drink it. Because if I'm not training for anything, I'll typically drink like some water when I get home from the gym, drink some water around lunch, mid-afternoon, and then with dinner. Just kind of drink those throughout the day. But I'm a lot more strategic with the timing with training for a race.
Training for a race. Okay. So then like what is that like on a race day? What does your water intake look like? Like
Yeah.
literally is your
So I'm very nervous. I have a lot of anxiety around race day and like you never know like with your gut how it's going to feel. Running
yeah.
messes with your gut a ton and it stresses me out. So um I am a little bit weird with my pre-race. Like I don't drink a lot of water before my race on that morning because most races start at like 7 a.m., especially for
Yeah.
a half marathon. So I don't drink a lot of water that morning, maybe like 8 ounces of water just to get a little bit in my system. And then for my long runs or on race day, they have the like water stations. I think this upcoming half marathon, I'm going to wear my vest that has like a water pouch on it or whatever. And so I'll drink water during my run, um, to stay hydrated during my run. And I'll incorporate electrolytes because that's another thing that, like, when I'm training for a race or on race day, I'm extra intentional about electrolytes just once a
Mm,
day. But
mhm.
before that, like when I'm not training, I don't necessarily get electrolytes in every single day. It's like I drink water, drink plenty of water, try to get electrolytes in a few times a week. But during race day or during race training, electrolytes are happening every single day, and especially during my long runs.
Gotcha. Okay. That's helpful. That makes sense.
Yeah, because I'm
Is there anything
sweating more,
else?
so I need to like replenish that in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. The more sweat, the more salt you're losing and replenishing those electrolytes.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on the nutrition front that you would share with everyone or anything that we didn't touch on that
I
you would
don't
advise?
think No, I don't think so. Like I said, I'm super simple, and so like I'm not tracking, but it's just about the intentionality and knowing like, hey, this is about how much I eat every day. These are about the times I eat every day. So when I'm having to start eating more, I just add in like an extra snack that I'm not
Hmm.
typically doing.
Hmm.
So I'm not making it overly complicated, but your body's smart. Like it's going to tell you if you're not giving it enough. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm really trying to listen to. Like if I'm noticing I'm going to have bad runs, that's not necessarily a I underfueled or underhydrated or whatever. Like sometimes you just have bad runs, but if I'm having one after another in the same week, then something's going on. Whether I've underfueled, I'm not hydrated enough, or I'm just coming down with something like getting sick. So your body's smart and it'll tell you. And that's kind of the principle that I follow with nutrition.
Hmm. Hmm. If we just listen to it, that's
Yeah.
often the hard
Got to
part.
slow down a little bit and listen to it.
Listen to the whispers before it starts to scream.
Yep.
Oh, and on that the tracking conversation too, I wanted to mention for me as well. Like I'm not tracking my food. I have in the past, but now even like I might, if the times that I might track is if I am trying to be in a cut or a deficit, I'm like, okay, let me
Hmm.
really dial in. But even with that, if you stick to eating more simple, basically the same foods every day with some flexibility or variety, you could even go into a slight cut, just like you just are like when you're prepping for your race, you're just like, okay, let me just add an extra apple here, or let me just add one
Yeah.
extra thing here. Same thing for a cut is like now, like I'm in a place where I eat mostly the same thing. So I'm like, if I am trying to cut, I'm like, let me just remove this one item. And,
Yeah.
I know that'll give
Yeah.
me a little bit of a deficit. So that's a beautiful part of it too. Actually, recently was just trying to get off of my train of overspending and overeating this dairy-free ice cream that I've been eating. Because first of all, it's like $5 for a pint of the ice cream.
So
So
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, eating one of those every night. And then also they're like 800 calories. And so instead I've been switching as of the last couple weeks, like to Ninja Creamy, which is like a 200 calorie pint of ice cream versus
Right.
800. And I'm like, I know I'll see a difference from that because the rest of my food is, pretty much stayed the same. And if I take out that
Right.
one variable, I'm like, okay, I'm going to see,
Yeah.
improvement or changes from that. So works both ways. But okay, so that's nutrition. As we wrap up, what mistakes do you see runners make when they are adding strength training into their routine? And then conversely, I'll ask the same question of lifters who are adding running. But what mistakes do you often see when a runner is like trying to incorporate strength training or a lifter is trying to start running?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is overdoing it. So like I talked about at the beginning with like making sure you're incorporating your rest. Like obviously incorporating strength training is super important, but if you're running 5 days a week and want to start incorporating strength training, like something's got to give with your
Yeah.
running a little bit. And you also like even just starting with 2 days a week of strength training, like something is better than nothing. So not overdoing it because that's one of the biggest things I see
Mhm.
is like people going in and deciding that they're going to do this and they're not giving themselves the rest day and then they end up just causing their body to shut down or give up on them.
Yeah.
So that's one of them, and then not focusing on form because that's
Mm,
something that whether you're new to strength training or you're not new but you're just picking it back up again, form is so important, and even more so when you're strength training is meant to strengthen your muscles and also protect your like joints whenever you're running. And if you're not focusing on your form, you might end up injuring your muscles. And so then you end up out of strength training and running. So
mm.
I even find for myself, I mean, I've been lifting consistently for 6, 7 years now. I don't even know what year we're in at this point. Um, so I think
You're
like
asking the wrong
7 years
person.
now.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. I'm asking the one with a newborn who gets 2 hours
yeah.
of sleep a night.
Yeah.
Um, but after lifting for 7 years now, like I even find myself where I'm having to slow down and make sure I focus on my form. And even if that means going lighter on the weight, I'm going to get more benefit from good form and lighter weight than heavy weight. Um, So
So
yeah,
good.
it's a typically not allowing enough rest and then not focusing on form and just like going out and doing it without any kind of like protection mechanism, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And lightening the weight is so humbling, but so worth it.
It is, yeah. And I tell clients that all the time, whether it's something like this or if they're coming off of an injury, like I know it sucks. I do, trust me.
Yeah.
I hate doing it myself, especially like I talked about before when I had to lighten the weight for half marathon training. But I'd rather do that than end up out of both of the things I enjoy or end up out of one of them for longer because instant gratification, I want to lift a little bit heavier in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still trying to regain my strength postpartum. Like, and I know the limiting factor is my core, like especially for like a back squat or something like that.
Right.
Like I know, like I'm like I can feel it, and I'm like I know that's the limiting factor, which is so frustrating. But I'm like, okay, well, let's just lighten the weight until we can get there. Like
Yeah.
it's not worth it. Ego
Yeah.
lifting.
Well, and it's so funny kind of on the ego lifting topic because everybody's so different. And even if I wasn't training for a half marathon, like uh, I'm not as strong as you. Like I don't think I ever have been. And I mean, I probably could get there if I prioritized the nutrition piece and the strength training piece as much. But it's like you posted something the other day. I think it was like 40s with shoulder press and said something
Ugh.
about like these were humbling today. And I'm like, yeah, those wouldn't have even gotten up for one rep for me. So they would have humbled me very quickly. But
Oh
like
yeah.
my point is like if you're listening to this or if you're like watching Megan's Instagram, my Instagram, whatever, like I watch Megan and I'm like, what you feel like is going down in weight for you is well above and beyond something like me, or somebody like me can lift. And then somebody might be watching my stuff and think like, oh, well, she's lifting this much while half marathon training. Like it's so dependent on yourself and what
Yes. Oh,
listening to your body. And I know for me, I know what's heavy for me and I know what's lightening the weight. So I have to listen to that and not compare, oh, this person's lifting super heavy while half marathon training. Because I see people who are still squatting 225 and like for them, that might be perfectly fine. That's not going to work for me. I am going to injure myself and I am going to end up overdoing it if
yeah.
I try to do that while training for a race or do that in general, if we're being honest.
Oh, that's such a good point though. Like that's so funny that you're like, "Oh my gosh, the 40 pound overhead press." Like, that's a lot on a, good day. But then the same
Yeah.
thing earlier, you're like, "Yeah, just a 10K." And I'm like, that's the most I've ever done is a 10K." And I was
And
like,
it,
"Whew."
it just goes to show, yeah, everybody's so individual. And so,
Yeah.
like, watching and comparing, because I mean, I follow so many influencers that are running these races and they're running 7 minute miles for 13.1 miles. I can't run a 7 minute mile for more than a mile. So, like,
Yeah.
it's so, it doesn't even matter whether you're half marathon training or like whether you're running or strength training or whatever. It's so important to remember that like your journey is your journey and someone's probably looking up to you just like you're looking up to them.
Mm, yep.
And it's something that I get caught up in all the time. And I think that's another kind of going on your question, not necessarily with like people who are incorporating running or strength training for the first time, but just in general, is like don't compare your journey
Hmm.
to someone else's. And I hear the quote all the time of like, don't compare your chapter one to someone else's chapter 28. And
Yes.
that's something that I still struggle with because I've been
Hmm.
running for a year and I just looked and last year it had me running the same run that I just did at like a minute per mile slower than I'm doing now. So I've made so much progress in the last year.
Mm,
But then I can go look at someone else who's running a minute per mile faster than I am now. And it's so easy to compare and get down on myself or even try to kill myself and get to that point when I need to run my race. No pun intended. I, I need to run my race because that's how I'm going to get better is consistently running my own race. And then I'll look
mm.
back a year from now and have made a lot of progress.
Dang. Okay, mic drop. Okay, with the motivational speech at the end.
You said we were almost done, so I was like, we got to hit it hard now.
I love it. Oh, it's so good and so true. Like inversely for me, I'm like yeah, with social media, I'm like that's where it's funny because I could a lot of people I follow, I'm like dang, she's strong. And I'm like, man, I lost all my strength. Or I'm like, look at her
Yeah.
glute development. Holy crow. I'm like, I'm like, I have no butt. Like it's just
Right.
it's so easy to compare that. But I'm like, it really is running your own race. And I love
Yeah.
that so much. Speaking of, to wrap this up, two questions, personal questions for you. One, do you have any hopes of doing more than a half marathon? And secondly, do you have any race day rituals? Because I know that's a thing.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to answer your second question first. I don't think that I have any race day rituals.
Okay.
I am definitely someone, again, I get like race day anxiety. One, I get in my
That
head
is
a
my race
lot.
day ritual.
Yeah, exactly. Panic. Um, what is the Grinch quote? There's the Grinch quote about like spiraling or whatever. That's me on race day. Anyways, so I tend to have like race day anxiety, so I get up extra early on race day. Um, get in my own head about like, can I even like run this pace or whatever if I have a pace goal? But nothing really. I do make sure not to have caffeine because I've made that mistake.
Mm.
And my heart rate has gotten really high for race
Mm.
day. So I'm a caffeine girl, but not on race day, not in the morning. So like my caffeine is my reward for finishing the race.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that there's anything really, because like I said, I don't really drink much water in the morning. I just like wake up early. I like to put on makeup for the race and like I like to look good because look good, feel good, race good. But
Yes.
other than that, no, nothing special.
Okay.
Um,
But post race caffeine hit.
Caffeine, that is
Okay.
my win, and then some kind of treat. And then so everyone tells me that after doing two half marathons, like, oh, you're gonna get the itch for more. So far,
Mhm.
both half marathons, I've hated my life in the middle of the half marathon. So I have not had that itch to do more.
Uh,
No, I
Maybe
will
the
say I
third is
have.
the charm.
Yeah, and we're the fourth or the fifth whenever I have all three back to back.
Oof.
But I will say, like, I'm running with a friend now, and that's one of the biggest tips that I can give if you're like getting into running is run with a friend. I was someone who
Mm.
ran by myself all the time, and like running with a friend makes such a difference. I love it so much, and I've told her now that like she's locked in. Like, I'm sorry, you have to run with me for the rest of your life. Um, but with that being said, like we've talked about eventually doing a marathon, but I don't think I would ever do it by myself. Like it would be
Mm.
something that I signed up with someone and I want to do like a fun one. If I'm going to do a marathon, I want it to be like something exciting, once in a lifetime kind of thing, like good destination. I'm not
Okay.
doing a marathon in like my backyard. Um, like my half marathon is going to be in this town that I live in, which is fine, but I would not do a half or a full marathon around here. I need it
You're
to
like,
be somewhere fun.
we're going somewhere cool.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe down the road, it's obviously not going to be in 2025 since we're already in September. Honestly, I don't even see it being in 2026, but I'm not going to say never. Maybe, but not at this time.
Okay, okay. I like it. I like it. Oh, this is so good and so helpful. I knew I was like, Jordan, will you please come on the podcast to talk about all things running? And if you guys have questions for her, she is the sweetest, and I'm sure I'd be more than happy to answer questions. Where is the best way for everyone to reach you or find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is J Nicole Fitness, which is JNICHOL Fitness. And easiest way to reach me is probably there. And
Okay.
as long as I see your message, I will respond. So I try to check my
Yes.
message requests too, but reach out to me anytime. I love, as you can tell, like talked for an hour about running. Like I
Yeah.
love talking about it because I was the person that hated it a year ago or a little over a year ago. So like I'm passionate about it because I've been in the shoes of hating it. It's not like I'm someone who's like always loved it. And I'm like, oh, you just have to get into it. Like you do, but that's coming from someone who didn't start by loving running. I hated it in high school. I was the one who we didn't really have gym or PE in my school, but like I didn't want to do the mile. I did not want to do any of that. I would hate my life during that time. So if you're like that, you have hope. You have hope of getting into running. And mark my words, next year this time we're gonna re-record this podcast and Megan's gonna be like, hey, I'm running now too.
I was literally just about to say that. Like, we'll see, guys, if this time next year, if I'm into it or
I'll
not.
come out to Utah and run with you.
I do feel like what you said, having a friend would probably make a difference. If I had
It
someone that was
does.
like, all right, let's go, Megan, then
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you so much for your time today, Jordan, especially with your
Of
little
course.
one that you just put down to bed. I appreciate you so much.
Of course. Well, I'm excited. I will come back and talk about it more if we get enough questions.
Stay
But
tuned for
thank you for
round two.
having me.